Good morning.
Good morning.
I continue to talk on this text, opening the hand of thought. If you have this book, page 128, the last paragraph of 128. So let me read this paragraph. It's a little long paragraph. This is not only true for seeing. It is true of every perception and sense experience. Hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. The world in which we actually live and experience life in its vivid freshness is a world that is mine alone and yours alone. This holds true even more for our thoughts. As in the proverb, several men, several minds, everyone has completely different thoughts, just as everyone has a completely different face. Even though people who believe in the same doctrine, use the same slogans, and follow the same formalized way of thinking, there can be no doubt that behind those expressions, their understanding in terms of vivid reality is as varied as they are. If we assume that all of humanity is living in the same world and has the same ideas, this is a crucial mistake. Even when it seems that we are communicating because we are using the same words, this is communication only in a generalized and abstract sense. In terms of raw life experience, everyone lives in a different world and lives out his or her own world of self that is only self. Last week I took the previous paragraph in which he says about seeing a glass of water, and yet even though usually we think we are seeing the same glass and same water, but Uchamurashi said, I see this glass from my angle with my power of vision, and you are seeing this thing from different angle with your own power of vision. So it's not certain if we are seeing the same thing. That is what I talked last week, and he continues. Last paragraph he said on this about seeing, or eye, and color, and object, color and form. With color and form is an object of our eye. And in this paragraph he is talking about the other 5 sense organs. Eye is the first one, second is ear, nose, eye, shiki, gen, ni, bi, zet, tongue, then ni, bi, zeshin, body, and mind. These are called 6 sense organs, and each sense organ has its own object. Ear is sound, and nose is smell, Buddhist, and body touch, sensation, and mind, it's called Dharma. Or in the Heart Sutra, this is called object of mind. So in the last paragraph, he only said I and color or form, and each of us is seeing from our own perspective and our own sensitivity of sense organs, and also our own karma. So it's not certain if we are seeing the same thing and have the same vision or perception and same idea and same evaluation or not. And he said no. So basically what Uchamuro is saying in here is each person is living in a different world. Each person has his or her own world. So, what he's talking about in this section is about big mind or magnanimous mind, Daishin, that is one of the three minds. And this Daishin is the mind without separation or division or discrimination. But in order to talk about such a mind without discrimination, he started to talk about each one of us has different world. That is kind of strange to me. That is what I mentioned last week, showing this diagram. The conclusion he wants to reach is this self and world is completely one. So there's no such discrimination or separation. But now he's talking about each person has its own life and its own world. And so to me, the starting point and a goal he wants to reach is almost completely different or even contradicted. But this is kind of important point of understanding what Uchamuro is talking about. And of course, according to Uchamuro's teaching, what is the meaning of our Zazen practice, and what the meaning of living together with three mind, magnanimous mind, and nurturing mind, and joyful mind. So this is a kind of interesting and also important point. And as you can see, Uchamuro doesn't use so much Buddhist technical terms. So, in a sense, it's very easy to read. And because he doesn't use a difficult philosophical or Buddhist term, I think, or we think we understand what he's talking about. And that is a kind of attraction to me of his writings or his style of teaching. He explain or express what Buddha or many Buddhist masters expressed or taught using very colloquial terms. That's why when I was a university student, I first read this book, I felt I understood. That's how I one of the reasons I became his disciple. But after for a while, when I continued to reading and listening his teaching, I found that is a problem. That means because he doesn't use technical term of Buddhist teaching, we think we understand what he's talking about. But what he's talking about is not so easy thing in the Buddhist teaching, but he expressed or explained in a very understandable way. Therefore, we think I understand. So what I have been doing since then is to, in some way, I try to translate Ucham Roshi's very understandable colloquial expression into Buddhist term. And this is kind of interesting work to me. And to me, that was really important to really understand what he wanted to say. So what he studied and understood reading Buddhist text, and because he studied Western philosophy, if he wanted, he could make his writings much more difficult. Then in Japanese, at least in Japanese culture, very intellectual, very educated people appreciate something difficult. Like, for example, one of the most well-known Japanese philosopher was Nishida Kitaro. His writing was really difficult, like Dogen. But because of the difficulty of his writing style, many very educated people think his philosophy is wonderful. But Ucham Roshi found if he wanted, he could write in such a difficult way, but he found that no one did. Because Nishida Kitaro was a professor at Kyoto University, he has some important position in the society. So, people read his writing even if difficult. Or Dogen is a founder of Soto Zen tradition. So even Dogen's writing was very difficult. Somehow we read and praise Dogen, even though we don't understand. That is a problem. So because he has no position in such a society. So he found unless he write in a very easy to read style, no one read him and no one appreciate. So he started to write with very colloquial day-to-day expressions. Anyway, so my work is in a sense translating Ucham Roshi, what Ucham Roshi talking with very colloquial language into Buddhist terminology. And so these are very basic teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha. 6 sense organs and the object of 6 sense organs. And when these two sides encounter each other, 6 consciousness is caused. When eye and color or form encounter, so-called eye consciousness is caused. That is what happens in our mind. And eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body consciousness are called sense consciousness. And that is what Okumura said here in the first sentence of this paragraph. This is not only true for seeing, not only seeing means eye and color. It is true of every perception and sense experience. This sense experience is about these first five, and perception is about the final sixth mind. That is a perception. So, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. And he started to talk about mind consciousness as a thinking about, as a function of our thinking. But to me, important point we need to understand about these six sense organs, six objects of sense organs, and the six consciousness in Shakyamuni's teaching or early Buddhist teaching. That is why I brought this big book. This is the Collected Discourses of the Buddha, or translation of Samyutta Nikaya. And this text has 2 volumes of the same size, so it's really big. But this is a collection of so many very short sutta about Buddha's saying. And one thing Shakyamuni taught about these 18 elements is mentioned in one very short sutta entitled The All. The All. In Japanese, Issai. This Issai appears in it's like Issai Shujo, all living beings. So Issai means, Issai actually means one piece, or everything. And Shakyamuni said, Bhikshus, I will teach you the all, the all. Listen to that. And what is the all? What is the all? The eye and forms, the eye and forms, and the ear and sound, and the nose and odors or smells, and the tongue and taste, the body, and in this translation it said tactile object, and the mind and mental phenomena. This dharma is translated as mental phenomena, the object of our mind. This is called the all. This is called this encounter that become 18 elements. These 18 elements is the all. That means there's nothing beside these 18 elements in our life. He continued, in any one, bhikshus should speak thus. Having rejected this all, I shall make known another all. That means if someone said there is another all beside these 18 elements, that would be a mere empty boast on his part. If he were questioned, he would not be able to reply. And further, he would meet with vexation, V-E-X-A-T-I-O-N, vexation. There's no way to answer to this question. For what reason? Because, bhikshus, that would not be within his domain. So Shakyamuni said, these 18 elements is all, and there's nothing else. Everything we encounter and experience is all these 18 elements. And in the another sutta, this is much longer, he talks about the condition of these 18 elements. And the title of this sutta is Burning. Burning with fire. This is a teaching when Shakyamuni kind of converted 3 very well-known spiritual leaders. All those 3 are called Kashyapa brothers, and those 3 together had 1,000 disciples, and all of them became Buddha's disciples when those 3 teachers became Buddha's disciples. And to those 1,000 monks newly became monks, Buddha said, Bhikshus, all is burning. So this is all, and all is burning. And what is the all that is burning? The eye is burning. Forms that is object of eyes are burning. Eye consciousness is burning. Eye contact is color or so. Eye contact is burning, and whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too is burning. And burning with what? Burning with the fire of lust, L-U-S-T, fire of lust, with the fire of hatred, with the fire of delusion. So these are 3 poisonous minds. Usually we call greed, anger or hatred, and ignorance. So those 18 elements, that is all. So that means entirety of our life is burning. And later, from this teaching, later in the Lotus Sutra, it said, 3 worlds are burning house, 3 houses, all conditions we are living is a burning house. So everything is burning. Burning with birth, aging, and death, with sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair, I say. So everything is burning. And how can we extinguish the fire? He says, let me read a little long. Seeing thus the instructed noble disciple experience revolution. R-E-V-U-L-S-M-O-N.
Revulsion.
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 What does it mean?
Aversion. Like craving and aversion.
To depart?
To push something away. To
push something away.
So, it's similar to the whole hatred, anger piece. It's something we don't want.
Probably this is a translation that is translated into Chinese as only. On is dislike, I don't like, and D is depart. So I don't like this, so I want to depart, leave from them. And another translation is like a sense of weary. Weary?
To be wary, W-A-R-Y, to be a bit fearful.
So that means we should leave this burning house. Toward the eye, toward forms, so revulsion toward the eye. Toward forms, object of eye. Toward eye consciousness, that is the third one. Toward eye contact, toward whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition. So we should leave, this way of being in our life that is consists of 18 elements. So we should leave. But problem is, if we leave this, because this is all, what is left? How can we leave? That is, I think, a question. Anyway, in this sutta, Buddha said, experiencing revulsion, he becomes dispassionate. Dispassionate means become free from greed. Through dispassion, his mind is liberated. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge, it liberated. He understands destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. This is no more for this state of being. So to get tired of this way of life is a liberation. That is what Buddha said. But this is a problem. I mean, when we leave these 18 elements, how can we live? Or even Shakyamuni Buddha, he attained awakening and became Buddha. He continued to live. That means he lived with these 18 elements. So what is the problem? And I think when he said revolution, he doesn't say we should completely kill or eliminate these 18 elements, but what we should leave is the three poisonous mind that makes this and all things burning. If we extinguish the fire of three poisonous mind, then the nature or functioning of this 18 element is transformed. That is how Buddha lived after he became Buddha. That means his 18 elements were not burning. How can we extinguish this fire or flame that makes our life with these 18 elements burned or burning? So, in a sense, I think Shakyamuni Buddha said only one side. We should become free from burning house. Then he doesn't teach how can we live after we left the burning house. And that is, I think, the kind of a question Mahayana Buddhist had to inquire. That means how can we live without burning house of the three or of 18 elements. And my conclusion, I say my conclusion first. When we become free from those three poisonous minds that makes this entire life burning, then that means we find there's no I or Atman. That is how we can become free from three poisonous mind. Three poisonous mind came from attachment or clinging to the self, to me or to Atman. And it is said Buddha left his father's palace and became a spiritual practitioner to see the way he exit from suffering. Suffering means these 18 elements are burning. When he became Buddha, he said, I'm liberated. That is what he said at the end of this sutta. But the way he liberated was, he discovered only suffering is there. There's no sufferer, no person who is suffering. That is, he found there's no such things called I or Atman or self. So self and condition of the self, or this is the self and this is the object outside of us, and we feel something. These are not what we want. These are not existing in the way I wish or I hope or I want. That is a cause of suffering. So when Buddha found there's no I, no self, then suffering is there and no self. When we find suffering is there and there's no self, then this subject and object are relying each other. So when self is disappeared, suffering disappeared. So both are not there. That is, I think that is how Buddha Shakyamuni was liberated from suffering, by discovering there's no self, no I or no Atman that can existing without relation with others. So I think this is a half side. Another half is even though we or Shakyamuni found there's no self, still these five skandhas are there. Five skandhas are there, and the five skandhas, when they work as one machine, produce the sense of I, self-identity. But Buddha said there's no such I. This is a production of five skandhas. But somehow these five skandhas think, five skandhas, they belong to this self. So this self is like, even though this self is created by five skandhas, but five skandhas start to think we belong to this I. This I is the boss, and we belong to the I. But when we discover this I is a production of five skandhas, that means concept, then we find there's no way to cling to this person, I. That is the way we can be free from five poisonous mind. Five poisonous mind came from the perception or concept of I. and I want this, I want that, I hate that. That is why we cling to something I like, and we want to escape from something I don't like. And that makes our life always running after something we want, or this I want, or escaping from this I doesn't want. That makes our life into samsara. So we are always chasing after something or escaping from something, and the same condition doesn't last forever. That means sometimes we feel we are successful, but other times we feel, our life is a failure, and we are always, running. Even if we feel we are successful, still we have fear this, good thing might be lost sooner or later. So there's no basic fundamental peacefulness in this life. So when we see there's no such I as the owner of these 5 skandhas, then 5 skandhas doesn't need to cling to 5 skandhas or I, the self-identity. That is what is meant when in the Mahayana teachings, the 5 skandhas are empty. And as the first sentence of the Hatha Sutra says, when we, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, see the emptiness of 5 skandhas, he is liberated, and he relieves all sufferings. So sufferings are caused by the clinging to the 5 skandhas. And Shakyamuni said, 5 skandhas are mara. When 5 skandhas are burning with Sri Pojan's mind, 5 skandhas function as mara. And when Shakyamuni attained awakening, he is liberated, he conquered mara, and he is liberated. But even though Shakyamuni conquered mara, he didn't kill the mara, because mara is himself, his own 5 skandhas. So by conquering mara, the mara is transformed. Mara, 5 skandhas as mara, transformed as 5 skandhas of Buddha. So as Buddha's body and mind, mara become Buddha's body and mind. That is only thing that changed. And he lived in this way for next 40 years, and he passed away. So to me, it was really interesting when I studied Buddha's biography. It is said before he left his palace, he saw, aging person, sick person, and dead person, and religious practitioner. And he wanted to be free from both suffering of aging, sickness, and dying. Then he became a practitioner. He left his home. And he said he was liberated. So the Dharma of deathlessness is attained, completed. And he lived 40 more years. But right before his death, when we read the Mahaparinibbana Sutta in Pali, Buddha was aging, and Buddha was sick, and Buddha was dying. So the condition of Shakyamuni Buddha himself was exactly the same with those people Shakyamuni saw, and said, these are suffering, I want to escape from, I want to be liberated from the condition of these people. But after he became Buddha 40 years later, his condition is exactly the same with those people. What is changed? What is this deathlessness Shakyamuni attained when he was sitting at the Bodhi tree, under the Bodhi tree? To me, this is really interesting question. So only Buddha didn't change anything. Only thing changed is he found I doesn't exist. There's no owner of five skandhas. Five skandhas are empty. And this discovering, I think, changed how Shakyamuni's five skandhas function. So five skandhas stop being Mara and start to function as Buddha's body and mind. These are exactly the same thing. So Mara was not killed. That's why in the biography of Shakyamuni, sometimes Mara appeared and talked with Shakyamuni. And when Mara said something, Shakyamuni said, I know you. So he knows where this voice of Mara came from, actually came from his own five skandhas. And when Shakyamuni said, I know you, then Mara disappeared. So, to be what Uchamoroshi is saying here is, how can we transform the burning 18 element into peaceful 18 elements. And to do so in the Mahayana teachings, they don't only say I doesn't exist, but when we become free from self-clinging, Mahayana Buddhists found there's no, when they are liberated from self-clinging, they start to see the interconnectedness with all other beings. That is another half. So after Shakyamuni attained awakening, he worked to teach others. This is how 18 elements as Buddha's body and mind works. So in Mahayana teaching, the other side of no self or emptiness of the self or five skandhas is interconnectedness with all beings. We are part of this interconnectedness. And in Dogen's teaching, this is expressed as his definition of delusion and enlightenment. In Genjo Koan, he said, this is Dogen's kind of a definition of what is delusion and what is enlightenment, or awakening, or realization. He said, when we convey ourselves toward myriad dharmas and carry out practice realization is delusion. But myriad dharmas came toward the self and allowed the self to carry out practice realization is realization. So delusion and realization is within the relation with self and all other beings. If we separate ourselves from the rest of the world, and by escaping from the world we become peaceful, it doesn't work in that way. But when we carry out, convey ourselves toward mirrored things means we think this me, this I, this self is the center of the world, and I see things and evaluate things, and things I think good is good, I think bad is bad. That is how we carry practice realization by conveying ourselves toward media dharmas. But when media dharmas come to the self, then he also said the self is verified by media dharmas, and that is dropping of body and mind. That means there's no separation between these five skandhas and rest of the world. All beings within this interconnectedness. We are part of myriad dharmas. We cannot be a subject, and all dharmas cannot be an object, because we are part of myriad dharmas. And this, that is the conclusion. But what Uchamura is talking here is another Mahayana teaching, that is, each one of us has our own world. That is the main point of these two paragraphs. That came from another Mahayana teaching. That is, it said these six senses and six sense organs encounter, there are six consciousnesses. But Yogacara is one of the two major Mahayana schools. Said not only this mind, six sense organs, and Dharma, that is concept. The object of our mind is concept or idea, or something like a number that has no shape. So it cannot be the object of these sense organs. Those concepts are the object of mind. And when these five pair encountered, there are consciousnesses. And the consciousness can become object of mind. But Yogacara teaching says, underneath this thinking mind, as one of the six sense organs, there are two layers of consciousness. One seventh, this is six. Seventh is called manas. And eighth is called araya. Araya literally means a storehouse. So araya consciousness is translated into English as a storehouse consciousness. That means everything we experience is stored in this deepest layer of consciousness. Everything means things we experience even before our birth, and everything we experience after our birth, and everything we experience before our birth, I think, is like a DNA, is a kind of a memory from the history of living beings until become human beings. Those are already here in me. Certain particular set of DNA is in here. And after we are born, we have different experiences, first within the family, then all those experiences are stored within this array consciousness. And when we think, I don't like this memory, so we may delete the memory or some painful experience in the past. But so we don't remember anymore. And yet that is still stored as a seed. They call this a seed. So everything we encountered in the past is stored in our array consciousness as seed. And seventh consciousness, manas means discrimination. And seventh, or sometimes this is translated as ego consciousness. And seventh consciousness grasps the seeds stored in the eighth consciousness, the deepest layer of our consciousness, as me. And this ego consciousness controls the first six consciousnesses. That's why, our way of viewing things, or valuing things, or like and dislike, different depending upon what kind of seed are stored within our consciousness. Somehow when we encounter certain particular object, somehow the seeds similar to this thing came up and influence the way we see this thing and understand what this is and how we evaluate this. That's why, our view are different. Each one of us has different way of viewing things and evaluation and way of doing things. And in certain group or people within belongs to certain group may share some same kind of karma. So, for example, because I'm Japanese, there is a Japanese way of thinking or valuing things or doing things. And in Japan that works. But when I came to this country, somehow, I don't share the same karma with American people. So I had a difficulty to adjust, my way of doing things. But even within the same group, even within the same family, each person has different view, different evaluation, different like and dislike. And this is what Okumura was actually talking, because our way of viewing things and evaluation and doing things kind of influenced by our past karma. Therefore, each one of us has different world. That is what Okumura is talking here. And that is, for him, that is important to see no separation with others. I hope that he's going to discuss about that point later in this section. This is what I have to say this morning. Any question or comments, please?
I was thinking of how Uchiyama Roshi talks about no toys practice for sesshin, and how in the parable of the burning house, the father or Shakyamuni uses upaya skillful means and lies, telling the children that he has the ox cart, goat cart, and they come. So I think that it does seem less entangled in talking about it as the reality of life as it is, and becoming an adult as seeing that reality, because when the kids leave the house, they're still not a toy. There's nothing changed. You know, there was just skillful means invoked that brought them out.
And Buddha said there are much better toys. You know, the big ox hip cart. This is a toy. It's not particular things we like or we love, but this life, entire life, become our toy or our world. And so there's no separation between self and the rest of the world. Of course, we are not Buddha, so this transformation is not so thorough, complete. So we have to make sure, you know, this transformation in almost every moment. It seems in Shakyamuni's life that transformation happened at one time, and rest of his life he was a Buddha. He didn't have any problem with Mara. But our transformation is not so complete. So, you know, in almost each moment, if we are careless, our five skandhas function as Mara. So by doing something, we experience our Mara, our self-centeredness. So that is why Dogen said our practice is endless, even though our enlightenment is beginningless.
And you're just toying around. So, in the poem, The Believing Mind, there's a line, if I can remember it, I'll have to paraphrase it. Do not dislike even the world of sensations or ideas, for to accept them is identical to true enlightenment. And so I'm taking that line. So when the myth of what Buddha experienced with respect to suffering, sickness, suffering, and death, he had an aversion. I don't like this. That's a poison, right? I don't like this. Sickness, death, not good. Don't like it. You know, it's like eating spinach for somebody that doesn't like spinach. And that seems so biologically innate. And you look at bacteria, and they're moving around, and they come upon something that causes pain, they withdraw. They see something nice, juicy to eat, they eat it. So that seems to be like deeply, deeply rooted in our biology. So there's really nothing you can do about that apart from just killing yourself. So phase one is Buddha rejects that. The enlightenment is when he stops rejecting that. The realization that nirvana, samsara, not two. It is the ego then, the constriction of ego, that becomes attached to liking and disliking. But the liking and disliking doesn't go away because that's our biology. So that's one thing that I thought. The other thing, you know, of course, this is all straight out of mind-only school. And yeah, I like the idea of the seed consciousness. That seems almost identical to the Jungian concept of the collective unconscious. They seem almost identical. But that also seems like a substratum of our existence, which continues independent of any particular moment, time, and space. So that borderlines on certain concepts of Vedanta, which Buddhists kind of push away on, saying, no, we're not into that, because we believe in impermanence. What about those seeds, those archetypes, those things that are in our DNA? How permanent or impermanent are they in the ebb and flow of everything else?
That's a question always asked to those Yogacara teachers from Indian people. And Yogacara teachers said, you know, this is impermanent. There's nothing fixed. Even this other consciousness is moving, always changing. And they said it is like a waterfall,
Yeah, but the waterfall has a continuity.
but nothing is the same. It's always changing, always new water is coming and going. So there's no such thing called waterfall.
With
So
relativity.
everything changing.
But then when you go into absolutes and relative,
Yeah.
the
Actually,
emptiness
absolute
beneath
and
it, the
relative.
emptiness in the absolute
Actually,
is
even absolute and relative is
conceptual.
fabrication. When we see our life itself to separate absolute and relative, these are kind of a tool. But if we think these are really their existence, then it's not a Buddhism anymore. Even though we use those tools, but tools, we need to understand tools are tools, or fingers are not fingers are fingers. Please?
Yeah, we were talking about that in terms of the Yogacara, but could you maybe talk about it a bit in the terms of the Madhyamaka?
Madhyamika. Well, Madhyamika or Nagarjuna put emphasis, these are all empty. 5 skandhas are empty. That is what the Prajnaparamita said. But what the Yogacara people want to say, even though 5 skandhas are empty, still constantly produce the sense of self-identity. So just seeing emptiness is not, it doesn't work, at least to them. So how this kind of fabricated world, production of our mind is produced. When we see the mechanic of how these things is produced, then we become free from clinging. I think that is what Yogacara teachers wanted to say. Just seeing things, everything empty doesn't work, at least for them. But we need to understand that even though 5 skandhas are empty, but somehow this is certain structure in these 5 skandhas work and create this self-identity. Then we can be free from that idea. So what I said about the Yogacara teaching is only half of the teaching. Another half is by seeing consciousness only, finally they become free from consciousness. Because yuishiki or consciousness only is abbreviation of consciousness only, no object. Yuishiki mu kyo. But as I said today, when there's no kyo, there's no consciousness. So consciousness is also empty. When we see that everything is only consciousness, and consciousness is also empty, then according to Yogacara teaching, those 8 consciousnesses, 8 layers of consciousnesses change the way they function into wisdom. 8 consciousness function as 5 wisdom. 5? 4 or 5? I forget. So this transformation from consciousness to wisdom is the another side of Yogacara teaching. So we need to become free from even the idea of consciousness. Well, it is answer to your question.
Yeah.
Okay. Please.
So I think Dogen talks about this a bit, doesn't he, when he teaches about impermanence? And I think he has some teachings about from the perspective of a person who's sitting here looking at change happening all around, we have suffering because we're clinging to things and we're unhappy about change, right? So we have some suffering. And we want to negate our suffering or escape from our suffering somehow. But if we see that we are completely not separate from all of this change that's happening, so we are one element in this system, we're changing, everything else is changing, somehow suffering still arises, but there's no self to own those feelings. So we get to this thing about there is suffering but no sufferer, right? So I think it's really helpful to turn that around a bit. I mean, I like those two illustrations. You know, if we're seeing ourselves as I'm here and I'm watching this happen, there's an I have suffering, and I want to get away from my suffering. But if I don't, you know, if I'm completely immersed in whatever is going on, there is no I. There is suffering, but there is no sufferer, right? I forgot where I was going with that. Because there was a third piece of that. Because I think you've talked about that when you've talked about the Genjo Koan or some of those writings. There was a third piece of that I thought was important, which has escaped me now. And maybe you remember what it was.
You know, last month we studied Shogo Genzo Shunju during Genzo-e. And that Shunju is about a place of heat and cold. How can we escape or avoid heat and cold when heat and cold is really there? And Donshan said, why don't you go to the place without heat and cold? Then Donshan said, the monk said, what is such a place without heat and cold like? Then Donshan said, when it's hot, kill yourself with heat. And when it's cold, kill yourself with cold. That means, as Dogen said, I think in Yuibutsu Yobutsu, the burning house and outside the burning house are not two separate things. They are the same place. So that means there's no escape from burning house. Still, if we see there's no sufferer, then we can work with the condition, whether heat or cold. Beside attachment or hatred. That is so. You know, even after Shakyamuni became Buddha, you know, his world was not so peaceful. You know, the many kings are fighting each other, and even his own clan was, you know, conquered and killed. So Buddha's life was not so peaceful and joyful life, I think. But still, Buddha's life is free from samsara, even though he lived really in a burning house.
And I think that was the third point that Dogen made, was that suffering, even that suffering without a sufferer, is 100% eternal Buddha. I mean, that is the entire function of this one unified reality. I think you called it something like the eternal life of Buddha.
That is, yeah.
So, I mean, to escape from that, it's not possible, but it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Because that suffering is itself, you know, the entire manifestation of reality.
Because Buddha said, this is all. There's
Yes.
nothing outside of this.
Right.
So
Yes, so that's the connection I made while you were talking.
Right within this. And there's no, within this, there's no two separate places, such as a burning house and a peaceful Buddha land.
Right.
You did use the word eternal Buddha.
Eternal Dharma body of the Buddha. Dharmakaya Buddha.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Being Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable.